Good morning, good day, good afternoon, good night. Wherever and whenever you're listening to this, welcome to the Bitaxe Townhall, and we're writing the Townhall number 39 already. It is insane how the numbers are rolling over and over again, and it's good to be your host. I'm One Clue. With me on the stage is Scott. Welcome, Scott.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for putting this together. Good to be here.
It's always good to be here and talking about Bitaxe and Open Source Miners United in general, especially with all the crazy things that are going on. And obviously, I don't know, guys, have you taken a look on public pool today? Have you seen what was going on there? Like two
Oh
and a
my
half hours
gosh.
ago, someone submitted a share that I think is crazy.
I think it's crazy too. Like, it seems like a few weeks ago this would have been a block winner, right? We had like a
Yes.
crazy down adjustment, and I think it adjusted back up. But yeah, go ahead. I mean, this is pretty exciting.
So if we do take a look on web.public-pool.io, there is something going on in the public pool, and I need to give a shout out. Obviously, it's from the open source miners community as well. It's open source, it's free to use, and you can even host it on your own machines if you want to, which is awesome and crazy. But the cool thing about this pool is like there are no fees and there are affiliate rewards. So the highest share per month gets a reward from all the affiliates if people use these affiliate codes. If nobody is using these codes, well, then nobody's getting any rewards. So yeah. But now I'm taking a look on it. It says 4.9 hours ago, someone was submitting a share with a difficulty of 112.9 T. It's so damn close to the current network difficulty.
What is the current network difficulty?
I mean, let's take a look on mempool.
We've got it on the
Obviously,
XOS dashboard,
they do have
don't
an
we?
awesome dashboard. I mean, current difficulty is 126.27 T. So the submitted share is only 14 T apart from winning a block.
Ooh, so close.
That is so close. I mean, it was
So
an end
close.
miner,
It just
so
tasted.
we're not gonna talk too much about it. But yeah, the next highest one is obviously a BitX with a 23.88 T, but this was 1 month ago. So you do see it takes some time for these machines to find high difficulty share, but to be honest, it can be every second. It could be yesterday.
I was talking with Matt at Solo Satoshi about making a calculator for calculating the average time it should take to get a share with like any arbitrary difficulty. That would be pretty cool here, but we can guess that Antminer is just roughly speaking like 200 terahash. To get a share of 112.9 trillion difficulty, I feel like that's probably years on average.
On average, definitely. Especially these days with this kind of difficulty.
I mean, it might be like one of these lifetime kind of things. Actually, I don't have that calculator on hand. It would be a cool thing to do. I see we got Solo Satoshi in the audience, but it's just kind of neat to think about. Like that, obviously, if they'd gotten a little bit higher, it would have been had a huge reward attached to it. But to get a share at 112.9 trillion difficulty is still incredibly lucky,
It's
even
incredibly
for
lucky.
a 200 terahash Antminer.
I mean, in the end of the day, it's a single chip that does find a share and is submitting it. So, technically speaking, as you always also promote this, it doesn't matter how many chips you have. It all comes down to one single chip being the one who found the block. And if we do have more information about the specific device, we could even break it further down. Nebula Miner was doing this multiple times, even live on the town halls here, where he was getting into the rabbit hole of actually calculating which specific chip in the ASIC was the one who found the block.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's really cool.
It is thinking about it is like insane because there are a couple of hundreds and on some chips a couple of thousand cores in these small ASIC chips. Calculating that it's kind of funny to see, and yeah. But anyway, we're drifting away from nice topics here. Before we dive into actual topics that we want to discuss today, one thing that I want to make sure, I do see new people here in the audience. It's awesome, and you're really welcome to be here. If you do have any questions or if you want to chat, feel free to do so. You can use the town hall chat. These town halls are usually the spaces for you, the community, to come together, ask questions. It doesn't matter how long you're in there, if you got a Bitaxe or not, or if you're thinking about getting a Bitaxe. This is your place to just come in, chill, and ask questions. These places and these spaces are for you. So if you want to come up on stage, raise your hand. Be aware, these town halls are recorded and later uploaded to multiple platforms. So if you don't want to share your voice, then use the chat. With that out of the way, I think we can talk a little bit about stuff that's going on with the Bitaxe. Obviously, we do have the version 2.9.0 out. And it does feature plenty of nice things in there. There's already preparation and work going on for the next release, the version 2.10.0. One of the biggest hurdles currently for me, and I can only speak out of my view here, is that it's really hard to find time reviewing all these pull requests while I'm trying to do something else. It's kind of insane, and the longer I'm in here, I get it, why so many people at some point might fail or stop doing what they did or entirely get off of projects. I'm not saying I will probably not. There's no reason for me to do so, but I do see it. It's time consuming, and it's frustrating probably for these committers and contributors as well if they wait for reviews from me or other contributors for a long period of time. So apologies to everybody who's waiting on a review. I'm doing my best. Tomorrow's the day where I'll start to review again. But yeah, I need to finish some other stuff that's going to be quite cool and is anticipated to go also in the version 2.10.0. We'll see.
I think you're doing a fantastic job. You and the other reviewers doing a fantastic job. And I just want to say that, you know, that the people submitting the PRs are definitely very excited, and we want to keep them excited about contributing. And I think having them see their PRs get merged is motivating, so that's good. But on the flip side, it's really important, especially now with ESP Miner, to make sure that we do those like complete reviews. You know, don't feel pressured to just merge stuff, you know, without spending enough time to review it, because I think in the long run that's going to be bad for the project if we end up merging something that causes bugs. You know, there's a lot of Bitaxes out there. A lot of people are updating their firmware, and so it's just not worth it to you know, not take the time to review the PRs and to just merge it without fully reviewing it. So don't feel stressed about it. We just gotta, you know.
But you put out a good point here.
Like
there are lots of Bitaxe out there, and we don't usually want to have any sort of bugs in there. I mean, in the version 2.9.0, there is one particular bug that I brought in there, so I'm the one to judge on that one, which is this tool, this ping or this measurement. It's not a ping; it's a measurement of the time, how long it takes for the pool to respond to your share send. And Anderson, shout out to you, man. I pointed out that I was doing something wrong there. So it was just a single line that needs to be on another position. That was the issue. So this is not a major thing that needs to be fixed. It will be fixed in the next release. So if you do see
the symptom,
yeah.
Sorry, guy. I was just going to explain what the symptom was of this bug. Like, what would people see if they're running into this bug?
Yeah, so what people will see is usually when you do connect yourself to a pool, your Bitaxe does produce some shares and sends it over to the pool, and then at a certain time it will be processed on this pool, and then back to you will be sent a message with like, all right, got it. It seems to be okay. This is a share that I think is valid. So here's my acknowledgement of this message that you sent to me. And the root cause was that I was not really measuring the times, particularly to the IDs of the messages that I was sending. I was thinking that I was doing that because I was writing explicitly a function for that. But somehow I slipped a line and put it on the wrong one. So it slipped. And from time to time, if you do send these new mining submit messages, and you will receive a mining notify, it will hiccup, and you will see huge numbers like 28,000 milliseconds on your miner. And I just want to make sure everybody who's listening to this now or later on, don't get crazy. It's a bug. It will be fixed in the next version. Don't worry about it. Everything is working. As long as you do produce some shares and you send it over, everything is fine.
Huge.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's just a minor bug. I'm sure we'll get that fixed up. Not a big deal, but happens.
It happens. It's just cosmetics. The cosmetic bugs are not that bad. As long as the UI and UX is usually working, it's not worth to put out a minor release. If we had like some sort of, in the middle of the run, your Bitaxe is shutting down, that's like a major bug. Then we would need to fix it immediately. But currently everything is as stable as it can be. And to be honest, it is good to see that the contribution in general is slowing down when it comes to like actual new code that's brought into it. We do have plenty of design improvements, which is currently mostly been done by Duckace, and we do have plenty of code cleanup and refactoring by Mutatron. It's so awesome to see, but you do get it. Like, there are not that many new functions coming in. It's slowing down because things are currently in a sort of a settled stage where we do have an established platform which is working awesome and people are using it. We have different versions from single Bitcoin miners to multi-chip miners. It's just performing and it's awesome. I've read this and I think somebody told this to you as well, is that the UI that we do have is outstanding even compared to competitors who do pay or who require payment for their UI or their usability, which is a good feedback from the community overall. And I love it to see that not too much has been changed apart from UI and making sure that the user does have the best experience ever, which is awesome. Because if I do just take a look on the hindsight of the last 3 releases, 80% of that was like UI, UX improvements, which is awesome because this means we don't have to fix shit, which is good. Like, we don't want to always have weird stuff that we need to think weeks about what's going on. I mean, we were at this stage like half a year ago, or maybe 1 year ago, I was playing around with this on-the-fly frequency transition. Like in the early stages, for everybody who does not know that, it was not possible for you to change the frequency on your Bitaxe. You needed to set a new frequency and you needed to restart it. And thinking about this, like me, myself, I consider myself being fairly new in programming with just having a couple of years of experience, less than a decade. It took me quite a couple of months to figure this out, how to do this properly without hicking up other things. And then I had the first version that was working on the Bitaxe Supra. And then the Bitaxe Gamma was coming out, and you were using a couple of the functions that I was using to make sure that this also works on the Gamma. And then what was this issue of the community was, we want this for all the Bitaxes, so we needed to rewrite it. And the overall process of this took weeks and up to months. And this was like a big one for me, at least. And now seeing that we don't have to deal with that because we have a settled base of all the needed components in ESP Miner, and we just need to improve certain things, is so awesome to see. I mean, there are a couple of things that are still missing. If you have taken a look on your Bitaxe board, you probably do have noticed on the back or on the front, there are some ports, some pins you can connect. You have like test points and stuff like this. And at the very top, you do have 6 holes or 5. I don't know. Maybe it's 5.
I think it's 6.
Is it 6? Could be 5 on
Yeah,
the
I
standard
think
Bitaxe.
There's power and ground, and then
Wait, let me take a look.
gosh,
1,
that's a good
2,
question.
3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, you're correct. These are 6.
Yeah, 6. Yeah.
6
power and ground,
ports.
and then 4 sort of arbitrary data pins.
We have introduced, you or Ben, one of you has introduced this kind of port that we never really used, which is called the BAP, the Bitaxe accessory port. And
The idea was inspired by Duncan with his
yes,
Bit Halo.
yes. Do you want to dive into this?
Yeah, so Duncan, IMGPO, makes an accessory for the Bitaxe called the Bit Halo, and it's he came up with it all himself and added it before we had any way to connect accessories to the Bitaxe. It uses pogo pins, which are just little spring-loaded pins, to strap onto the back of the Bitaxe and make connection with some of those test points. And it does that to pay attention to the serial log. And when he's got a microcontroller on there, and when it sees a message that a block or a share has been submitted, it flashes a bunch of LEDs that he's got on his accessory that sort of go all the way around the edge of the Bitaxe from behind. It looks really slick. Check it out on the Solo Mining Co. Website. It's called the Bit Halo. It's really neat. But what he did was cool and it works great, but it's a bit of a hack, right? He's just kind of picking off these test points that we had for testing.
He was reading the UART signals.
Yeah. So the test points are just little exposed pieces of metal that are connected to random signals on the circuit board, and they're meant for when we're developing the Bitaxe to figure out what the fuck's going wrong, or in the factory so that you can verify that it's been built right. But Duncan was using this for an actual accessory, and I was thinking, well, this is amazing. Accessories are awesome. We should make it easier for people to make accessories, right? That's the whole idea of the Bitaxe, is that people can just do things. And so the idea for the Bitaxe accessory port came up, was like, yeah, let's provide a pin header that connects directly to the ESP32 so people can add stuff. And the ESP32, the microcontroller on the Bitaxe, has a ton of extra pins, so this was no problem to bring 4 signals and power and ground out to this 6-pin header, and that got added a long time ago.
But you need to admit, on the early versions where the BAP was introduced, there was something was wrong with the BAP. I think the wiring was not correct on the very first one.
Oh, really? Was it? Oops.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
one thing that is really, in particular, a little bit bad about the ESP, if you take a look on the ESP, you do have certain GPIOs that you can use for plenty of things, and you think, all right, I just connect myself to this GPIO, it's free anyway, but wait a second, now you're using spiffs or any other sort of functionalities, and now you lose GPIO pins, which is, got me in trouble a couple of times.
Well, that was the LED on the Bitaxe Max. One of the LEDs, I think the red and the green channels were actually connected to pins that were used for SPI to talk to the flash chip. So that never really worked. I don't think that was the problem with the BAP. I don't think so. I could double check that. But I guess that just goes to show that no one was using it. if no one was reporting that this was a problem.
I mean, nobody was really, or nobody is currently capable of using these ports, apart from if you do change certain things on your firmware on your own and you know what you're doing, then you can use these ports. But long story short,
that was the issue. Is like, okay, we have the sort of physical connection point for accessories, but how are you going to fork ESP Miner and add your custom firmware to it? That's kind of a big job, and then you have to keep your fork up to date with ESP Miner, which is going to be hard because ESP Miner is moving really fast now. So I think what we really needed to add was the idea of a protocol a way for you, a standardized way for people to get data out of the accessory port, and that's what you've been working on.
Yes, so I've been working on this for I don't know how many months now, because the insane part about this is we had this port on the Bitaxe in for I don't know like 1.5 years now. So the BAP port is in there for a very long time compared to the overall project, and there was never really a use for it. And in the early days, we were discussing about how to use it, but nobody of us actually really worked on it. And I think this was now 3 months ago where we started like the GitHub issue of how should we implement the BAP port. And I don't know how many comments are on this issue, but there are plenty, multiple pages. If you want to take a look on it, let me see which issue is this. We have this somewhere. I'm looking while I'm reading. So this issue is basically sort of showing how should we implement an actual protocol for the BAP in order to make it work. And there were a couple of design concepts that are used to work around that, to make sure that it is as standardized as possible. And you had the idea of like, all right, if you do start a project or a protocol for this specific task, then we need to have some sort of a standard. And you came up with the idea of this geo location thingy with using checksums and everything else.
Yes. There's a somewhat standardized, like simple protocol that is used to get data from GPS chips and things like that. And I had used it before on a project, not Bitcoin related, and it seemed to work pretty well. And it's very simple. I think it'll be easy for, not easy to implement for you, but easy for people who are making accessories, hopefully, to work with. And it's called, oh my gosh, what's it called? I'm blanking on the name. Something strings. NMEA strings. Yeah, that's what it's called. It's like a string, an ASCII string of comma separated values, and it has a checksum at the end. And usually in the beginning, it has like a command name, and it's bidirectional, and you can sort of turn on regular updates of data that will come out, or the accessory can send commands to the Bitaxe to sort of configure what data it wants to get.
Yeah, and long story short, so I found the issue, it's the issue 756. We discussed this multiple times previously to that, but on March you finally created an issue for that. So we have like plenty of people discussing on how to implement it. And yeah, I do have a prototype right next to me with my current implementation of BAP, and I do have a small screen attached to it, which allows me to fully control it. There are other potential options of what you could do with it. I'm currently thinking about how we could potentially use something else than Wi-Fi with connecting the Bitaxe to some sort of a pool. So with that, the hope is to increase the possibilities with your Bitaxe, become more stupid in doing things that you weren't able to do previously. And it's working all right. Earlier today, I got it working that I can control over this protocol the ASIC frequency. I can already change all other things on it, like the fan control and what else? Wi-Fi network stuff. So it's finalizing.
Frequency.
My goal is to publish this tomorrow. So let's see. It's I don't know, 700 lines of code currently. It's huge.
Nice. Thank you for just jumping into that rabbit hole, which is to implement this protocol from scratch and get it working. That's pretty badass.
I need to admit,
my hope is that
that's
it's
like
going to enable lots of cool projects.
I need to admit here, we had like this initial idea a while ago, and then we created this issue. On this issue is also a bounty from Crypto Eyes, which was quite funny because he does have a project where he really wants to make use of something like that. So you do see there are plenty of projects that just could make use of this. The bit halo from Duncan is one thing. The other projects from Crypto Eyes with his solar stuff is another way of how to use it. And the only thing that actually made it possible to initialize this project was like the tremendous amount of work that people put into the thinking about how we should implement it. I mean, obviously somebody needs to write the code, and I mean, fast forward 4 months later, I have a working prototype. Yeah, it just takes a little bit of time, but we get there. We get there.
This is the way.
It is. And with that, we can finally improve it. And this is, I think, this brings me back to what I was talking about earlier. Like, currently, we don't have that much of like side quests that we need to accomplish in order to make sure that your Bitaxe is the best that you ever had. Because like we now have basically everything. The BAP, to be honest, even though it probably gets integrated in the next 2 releases, it's a goodie. It's not needed. Like the Bitaxe itself it's perfect. If we would leave right here, it would still live forever.
Yes, but there's lots of cool things we can do. Johnny's been doing lots of sort of architectural prototyping and trying to come up with ideas to make the software more versatile, so that
Yes.
like those problems you were talking about you had initially with changing the frequency, how it worked on one model and not on the other. That in a way could come from poor architecture of the firmware. So I know Johnny's working quite a bit on that.
Some
I think
people would
there's lots of
argue
improvements.
it's about that we do write it in C, and that's that we got into these issues is probably the reason what brought PMax for his Nerd QX and Nerd X series over to use C++, because it allows him to do certain things in a different way. And by the way, I do see him in the audience. Huge shout out to you, man. It's awesome.
Yes, it is awesome.
There is no ending there. Like ESP miner could be rewritten in C++. It is technically rewritten in C++ if you do take a look on ESP miner for the Nerd X series and the Nerd QX series. Then it is basically ESP miner. It is a fork in some ways, but he rewrote so much stuff. It's his own beauty that he created there. There's also another fork that is called Rust Miner or ESP Rust or something like that. Which
ESP Miner -RS.
ESP Miner -RS. I'm sorry. If I'm not mistaken, this project is more or less on a hold because it takes time to do that, and it takes people who are into Rust. I myself, I'm not. I'll stick with C. I'm currently trying to get a little bit deeper in C++. Yeah.
There was a flurry of messages that I saw between Johnny and K1 that happened at like 3 a.m. This morning in their time zones. And they were both getting pretty fired up about jumping into the Rust version of ESP Miner again. And one of the comments I saw was that Nebula had actually gotten pretty far along with it.
Oh, you did?
And that I guess the company that makes the ESP32 is called Espressif, and they have hired at least one, probably multiple people to get engaged with the Rust community and actually work on creating like an SDK for the ESP32 on Rust. And it sounds like they've made a lot of progress. So I think that ecosystem sounds like, from what I read these guys talking about last night, it sounds like it's getting more and more possible. So that would be cool. I mean, I don't know anything about Rust, but hey, can learn, right?
So
Especially
the only thing it
when
now
we have-
requires is us to learn Rust, huh?
Yeah, but you know,
Yeah.
there's never been a better time to learn a new language, especially when we can have AI write so much of it for us.
Or at least help us.
At least help us, yes. Fix our problems. Give us hints.
Yes.
All that good stuff. Yeah, I have K1 did a cool firmware called Bitaxe Raw, which is just like a USB serial, makes the Bitaxe into a USB serial device. It's pretty neat, but he did it in Rust, and I was looking through that trying to figure it out, and it looks very foreign. Like coming from C, there's a lot of stuff in there that's new. You know, when like
Yeah.
there's a lot of programming languages that are very C-like. You know, and seeing those is pretty easy. And Rust has got a lot of new stuff. So I don't know. I think we can figure it out. I think ESP Miner as it is doing really good. It's worth working on the architecture, get that into an even better place, add new features. But it's cool to see this Rust one coming along. I happen to know that the 256 Foundation is making a Linux-based mining software called Mujina, and that will be in Rust as well. So
That's interesting.
it's coming along. There's lots of applications for this stuff, and the more the better, I think. I actually also saw some posts this morning from a user, Saliones, Salier ones. I don't know how to pronounce it. Anyways, this person was asking, when are we going to have language translations in XOS? I was like, oh, dang. I know that Seed Signer has been working a lot lately on translations, and that's pretty awesome. So maybe that's something that we could add to Bitaxe to have it so that the dashboard can be switched to multiple different languages. I think if we set up the structure for adding new languages, then we could have lots of different users who speak different languages submit translations, and it would be easy to add it. You know, if we add that ability.
I mean, it's definitely a nice thing to have. I mean, one thing that I did with the web flasher, for example, is that I created the English and German translation for it, and I just posted like a one JSON that everybody needs to adapt to in their own language and how they need to submit it. And we could potentially do the same with ESP Miner and XOS. I mean, take a look on the web flasher. You can even read it in Klingon if you're able to read that. It's also like a nice, yeah.
I was just going to say, it'd be cool to have different languages. I realize you can probably have your browser translate it, but it would be nice to have that supported.
I mean, the browser translation is usually shit, to be honest. It gets a little bit better, but having like native languages by people who speak them natively is probably a bad idea. Yeah.
So, it's not finished. There's more things we can add. There's always more things we can add.
No, obviously not. I'm just trying to say, like, it is good, at least out of my view, because then I can chill a little bit on all my reviews and take more time into reviewing it. That we are now finally in a stage where we don't have to push out as much as possible because we are actually lacking functionalities.
Yes. There, actually, speaking of bugs, there's a growing number of people who are having this flat line of death bug, where your hash rate just flatlines, like it doesn't change at all. So you see this big flat line if you're looking at the graph. There's probably like half a dozen people that have reported it on GitHub issues, and they say that people are talking about it on Reddit, although I don't really read that. It's kind of frustrating because I have not been able to reproduce it here. So far, everyone who's saying they have this flatline problem has a Bitaxe 601. Of course, some people have Gecko Science 601. Some people have like AliExpress 601s. I don't have any of those to test myself, but I have 4 601s running here, and I have not been able to reproduce this issue. Like, I really think that it's some sort of like task preemption thing where the mining task just gets wedged.
Yeah, it's super weird.
reason.
I mean, there's so many things to calculate into that, like which kind of model you're using, which pool you're using. Is there any timing issues between your NTP server and the pool maybe? What kind of ping do you have, and so on. So there's so many things that you need to consider into it. I myself have like 10 gammas running currently just for testing purposes, And I've never seen this myself, so
Yeah, what is going on? One of the things we could do, and I've always wanted to do this, is add that status task. I think we have an issue
yes.
for that, where we basically just restart the Bitaxe if the chip goes zombie. That's what CG Miner calls it. Basically, it hasn't sent a share back in some amount of time. We could just reset the whole Bitaxe, or we could just turn off power to the chip and reinitialize it and start over without restarting the Bitaxe. But detecting this zombie situation, however it happened, and restarting would be good. Um,
I mean,
it would be
one
even
good
better to
thing,
fix this bug, though.
one good thing that works into that is this response feature that I built into it. Like using that, and if the response is basically infinite, then something is going wrong, and this can be used to check on other functions if they are still working or not.
Yeah, yeah. That actually would be a cool thing to incorporate into it. I mean, we can have the pool go zombie, right, where it's not sending new work. That's
Yeah.
something to be concerned about. Like if the pool is still connected but it hasn't sent new work, then yeah, we would want to do something about that. Maybe go to the fallback pool, or just try and restart. But the ASIC itself can also stop sending shares, which is, I think, is what's happening in this flatline case. Is it's just not sending shares. Some of these users have posted their logs, and we can see that it's still connected to the pool. Like, it just keeps sending new work, but the ASIC stops sending shares. Like, it's just not there.
I mean, one thing that's really PMax is writing that the NodeX has a 1 hour watchdog. It resets the device if there is neither an accepted share nor a rejected share. Interesting. But it's C++, so we need to take a look into that.
Yeah, we should take a look at that.
I mean, I was copying quite a couple of things that he did. It's always nice to have him here because he created so many nice features, and people want them on Bitaxe as well. I mean, yeah. You know what we need to talk about when we're talking about features is Swarm, because this is something that is bugging most of us devs for quite a while now.
Yes.
Yes, you're
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of
You don't
a
want to talk
hack
about
in
it, huh?
place. Yeah, no, we can talk about it. We've got a hack in place right now because your web browser is set up to prevent websites from accessing other devices on your network. That would obviously be a security problem. If a random website you can go to can just access other devices on your network, that could be bad. So by default, that's prohibited by your browser's sort of security policy. The problem is that's exactly what we want to do with Swarm. Swarm is a website. It's hosted on the Bitaxe, but it's a website that needs to access other devices on your network. So we have to enable this thing called CORS, which is like cross-origin resource sharing, I think.
Yes.
Maybe someone correct me on that. But CORS, when you enable it, basically allows websites to now access devices on your network. And that's what enables Swarm to work. And this was a big bug we had, a bunch of drama, is that we just enabled CORS and was like, okay, cool. But then someone very kindly notified us that now arbitrary websites on the internet can access your Bitaxe and change stuff like what pool you're using or what address you're mining to, things like that. So we had a fix, and that fix was to only allow IP addresses that are reserved for local IP addresses. So that's
Private
like
IP range, yeah.
IP addresses that start with 10, or IP addresses that start with 192.168. So there's a hard-coded list on the Bitaxe that says, okay, cross-origin or CORS is enabled, but only if it's one of these local IP addresses, meaning that if you have a standard router at your house, it's going to be configured to use local IP addresses. That's how nearly all sort of stock routers work out of the box. And so if you're using that, then your computer or your phone will be on your local network and have one of those local IP addresses, and all your Bitaxes will have those local IP addresses, and so it will work. But then we get into this problem where Not everyone has their network configured like that. If you're like working at a big tech company that's a badass OG company, they'll use public. They have enough IP addresses where they can give public IPs to all the machines on their network. And so you'll run into some problems if you're doing that because those IPs aren't explicitly allowed by the Bitaxe firmware or by XOS. Also, if you're using MDNS, that's where you might access, instead of typing in the IP address as the URL to access the Bitaxe, you could use it by its host name, meaning by default that's just Bitaxe. So you could do like http://Bitaxe and access it that way, which is cool. I mean, that's obviously way more user friendly than using an IP address, and I would love to enable that by default. But the problem is that is now going to break our hard-coded list of local IP addresses. So Swarm won't work in that case.
I mean, technically speaking, if you do have a more advanced router at home, hostname search is still working. So unless you do have one of these ISP cheaper routers, typing in Bitaxe / in your browser still works.
But I don't think Swarm will work if you do that.
No, Swarm will not work, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the problem. So like, you're like, oh great, I'm using my Bitaxe, I'm accessing it via, http://Bitaxe, everything's great. Oh, what's Swarm? Oh wait, this just doesn't work. It's kind of a bad user experience there. So we would like to fix this. K1 had a bunch of solutions for how we can do it, involving like if you want to do Swarm, you can set up some sort of encryption key. I feel like that could work. What I would like to do is kind of the simplest thing, which is to pull Swarm out of XOS and provide it as a separate app that you can run on a, just separately from the Bitaxe. And so then if we had Swarm out of the Bitaxe, now we could disable cores and we could enable MDNS, and now we can start accessing Bitaxes by those short, I think sometimes they're called rendezvous addresses or zeroconf addresses or Avahi. Anyways, we could make a much more user-friendly address that you can access your Bitaxe at, which would be fantastic. So grandma doesn't have to type in an IP address. And then for sort of the badass users that have multiple Bitaxes, like of course all of us in here, we could get a separate app like Hash Commander, which Ben has started working on. And that app would be ideally a more full-featured version of Swarm. Like there's even more things you could do, like maybe update the firmware, batch update the firmware, like all that kind of neat stuff that high-end users would be interested in would be in a separate app. So that to me seems like a win-win. People are going to be upset that Swarm doesn't come by default on every Bitaxe, but yeah, I think if you have multiple Bitaxes, what's wrong with getting a separate app?
Yeah, I think I kind of agree on that. The initial conversation that we had was, I'd say, a little bit loaded, a little bit tough, because obviously we do have like plenty of people who love Swarm, and we had an issue months ago, it probably already a year ago, where we were thinking of just removing Swarm entirely. We were not even thinking about creating a separate app. We were just thinking about, all right, we have so many issues with Swarm, let's just remove it because it's causing so many issues. But then we fixed it, and you see it's still in there. But now with making this Bitaxe and the firmware a bit more stable, and just in overall the experience more secure and friendly for the end user, it does make sense to just have the device on their own, and whenever you want to control multiple of them, just having a separate app, which is more feature rich, instead of making sure that we program a Bitaxe in such a way that it can do Swarm, it can do all the other things. It's going to be an issue, like a really huge issue, if you want to do that.
Yeah, I think so. And if you're running a bunch of Bitaxes, like it sounds like you and I are, it's just not practical to interact with them individually. You know what I mean? Because there's so many, unless you're testing something. But like, you really, when you get more than a couple bid axes, you need a good management app. And some people have put together great ones. There's lots of different ones, so that's well served. But I think that having an official one, I guess, that people could just go to get that swarm functionality for monitoring and administering a whole fleet of bid axes.
Yeah, I think like
that'd
having a
that'd be pretty
monitoring
rad.
tool there is a good idea. Also with that, we could make sure that we do also implement other manufacturers so that we try to become not only a monitoring tool for your BitX, but also for other devices that you might have in your ecosystem.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. We're already running into problems where we want to change the API, and now PMAX and NerdQX have to make those changes. Otherwise, Swarm breaks. There's people with, let's just say, other home miners that want to get in on the fun, and it starts to get a little bit unwieldy if it's the Bitaxe firmware doing it. Like the Bitaxe firmware needs the changes to support this, or if the other device needs changes to support this. But you can imagine a full-featured sort of desktop app that is much easier to change, or maybe it's even modular, so there's some sort of plugin you could add to support a different miner, and manufacturers of those miners could submit plugins to this management app so that their miners are supported. That could be pretty cool.
Yeah, that idea is kind of cool. I mean, currently Hash Commander is written, I think it's in an Electron, which is okay. I mean, Electron is like a web-based application that you then just tie or compile into a program that you can execute on Windows, Mac, and Linux. So it's kind of cross-platform. What it lacks with using that is there could be interoperability issues, of like things that work on Windows might not work on Mac, and the other way around. But these days, Electron is pretty standardized and really working great. So we'll need to play around with it. It's evolving whenever we do have time. Ben is trying to contribute stuff to it. As soon as I'm done with the BAP, I'm also trying to contribute other things to it. So yeah, it's shaping, and it just takes time.
Wow, we just got a long message from ScrambleX.
All right, that's a really long message.
That is a really long message. ScrambleX, is this an open source project? I got to ask. Being as this is the Open Source Miners United.
He said yes.
Okay, cool. I just got way more excited about this. All right, let me read this real quick. Side project called Sentinel Node, a standalone Bitcoin plus Lightning node. Okay, so we got a node. It's got a built-in dashboard that communicates with the Bitaxe miners over the air. No firmware changes are required. That's awesome. It uses the Bitaxe API. It includes a full Bitcoin node, fantastic, internal wallet, and optional Lightning. It's got a touch screen, dashboard, UI is nearly finalized. Optional internal Bitaxe support. Okay, that seems interesting. QR wallet set up via camera, also very cool. Built from scratch, no Bitaxe code was reused. The goal is to complement the ecosystem, not compete. Cool. Kind of the hack you guys have been discussing. I wasn't aware of the potential dangers. What's the best way to officially integrate this with the Bitaxe project, or at least make sure it aligns with your roadmap? I'm planning on releasing it open source. Okay, and I want to do things the right way. Okay, this is fantastic. So that's a good question. Like, how you've got this great idea for this fantastic app. How is it integrated with Bitaxe? I mean, it sounds like initially like you're using Bitaxe functionality over the API. That's a great way to do it. The other thing, I don't know if you were here at the beginning of the town hall, but we were talking about a more direct way of interacting with the Bitaxe, and that's the BAP, the Bitaxe accessory port, which the protocol for that is coming soon. That would be if you want to have an actual Bitaxe like inside the same box, I guess, as your node. and you don't want to communicate over the network, it's a serial communication link directly with the Bitaxe. And so you can interact with it that way. It'll have a lot of the same features, I guess, as the API. Still a work in progress, but that's kind of the goal there. At least all the features of the API that make sense over a direct serial connection. So you can look into that as well. If there's changes that you want to suggest to ESP Miner or AxeOS or anything like that, you can make an issue. You can ask about it here. You can ask about it on OSMU. You can make an issue. You can make a PR, and then we can look at it. Like, obviously, no guarantees that we're just going to merge anything, but this is a community project, so you can submit your ideas. We can talk about it. We can discuss it. We can see if it makes sense for sort of the general roadmap. I realize we don't have a like official roadmap or anything that's been voted on by anyone. We just kind of go by what the people who are going to make the actual changes want to work on. So far, I think that there's no one who's just going to like do your changes. So if you can do it yourself, that's going to be a huge help for getting it implemented. And then of course we can discuss how it makes sense to add it to the Bitaxe, or if this makes sense to make it a fork, those kinds of things. Looking at your screenshots now, this is pretty cool. Look at that. Is that a touch screen? Yeah, that's really neat. That's really, really neat. Yeah, touchscreen. That's cool. Yeah, I love to see this kind of thing. So let's talk about how to officially integrate this. I mean, we don't necessarily want to officially integrate with one project and then not with another. And by that same token, we don't want to make this project so ridiculously complicated with integrating every single possible project that it kind of becomes this clown car. That's not the goal there. But I think things like the BAP protocol and the API, we want to make those very robust so that there's lots of possible ways to integrate with Bitaxe. So yeah, any suggestions you have there on how this could possibly work with your project, you're most welcome. Does that sound about right, Wanclu?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we have so many side projects or other companies or individuals created like open source projects that work around or work with the Bitaxe project. There's nothing that we tie explicitly to, but obviously like integration wise is you just need to make sure it works with Bitaxe, and as soon as it does, you can call it like integrated, I think, because yeah, as Scott said, it's a community driven project. Obviously there are some maintainers for it, and as he said, you can use various different ways to contribute to the project or all the other projects that we have at Open Source Miners United. And with that, we'll see where it goes. But what we will definitely not do is we will not tie in one specific project and then not tie in others. That's not going to happen with us.
Yeah, that's right. That's the goal here. Is we're trying to not stifle innovation or anything like that, right? We're trying to encourage it, but then, like I said, we don't want to just include everything and have this be a total clown car, because that's just not sustainable either. Do you have this concept of a clown car in German?
Yeah.
Okay, you know what I'm talking about. It's just like this tiny little car, and all these clowns keep getting in or out.
Yeah.
Not that these projects are clowns at all. It's just a concept of too many things.
I mean, you want to make sure that you don't overload your project entirely. One of the things is that I could imagine about it is there's a Python-based monitoring tool for basically every single mining ecosystem around there, and that's the thing. It does have basically everything in it. It is so overloaded. It's a great tool, but it's not easy to use. And one of the first things that we always try to make sure is it needs to be as easy as possible. We always love to call it granny proof. And if it certainly is in that way, we try to implement these things into the Bitaxe. I mean, one example is like the naming schemes. Just do yourself a favor and download one of the earliest versions of XOS and install it on one of your older Bitaxes, like in Bitaxe Ultra. I don't know, run the version 1.9 point something, just for fun. Don't even use the 2. Version. There are major changes on how to use it, how to interact with the Bitaxe compared to how it is now. Even the setup is different. I mean, I myself, I do regularly videos about the whole ecosystem all around Bitaxe, and I now needed to do another setup video because things have changed dramatically, that it is not comparable with the older version that we had previously.
Yes, it moves pretty fast. I think, if we don't have like official integrations, but if you just make something that's really good that everyone wants to use and you're involved with the community here, like, that's as good as official, right? If everyone wants to use it and everyone does use it, like, that's unofficial official.
Kinda. All right. We're getting close to the end of this town hall today. If anybody of you in the audience does have a question, feel free to ask them. As I always try to promote here to everybody, this is your time to come in and shine and ask questions. Everybody is welcome. You can ask whatever you want, even if you never ever heard about Bitaxe. Feel free to ask any questions. We are here to help you out with any of those. And if you're listening to this recorded later on, feel free to check out our Discord server, which is our primary source of communication. You can find this under discord.gg/OSMU. And if you want to learn a little bit more about the whole technology or even dive into all the different things that we do have, check out osmu.wiki or the webpage of our open source community called osmu.xyz.
And if you're looking for a project to get involved in, maybe you're not a coder, right? Like, documentation takes a lot of work, and we could use a lot of help there. So
yes, please.
On the wiki, like Juan Clu was saying, I mean, this project moves really fast. Like, the whole setup process is totally different. So keeping the wiki up to date, adding more things to the wiki, there's just a fantastic amount of work that can be done there, and you would be a much appreciated contributor to this project if you want to work on that stuff.
I'll give everybody who's contributing to the wiki a kiss, personally.
There you go.
It's so much work.
Come to your house and give you a kiss. That is worth it right now. Get involved today. Get that kiss.
Oh man, that sounds like a scam.
Do this and you'll get a kiss, and then you don't show up. Oh man, it's so disappointing.
No, but honestly, it's so much work to do. Just writing down these things. You cannot do this by AI. You need to use your own hands and you need to use your keyboard. You need to write down these things, and yeah, there's plenty of documentation.
There was a really good example of this. I'm totally blanking on his name. He's not here right now, but this guy, I think he's from Nashville. He just showed up and he made this open API spec for our API. It's just this one page document, but he just saw the need and put that together. And it's amazing. Like, you can feed that document to AI and it will just write you a program to interact with the Bitaxe. Like, just that simple little thing like that just opens the whole world of options for programs and things. So that kind of documentation is huge. And if you have any experience with doing this for other projects, please like,
is this like a PDF or what is that? I've never seen that.
Oh, dude, it's a YAML file. It's
open so it's a prompt for it. YAML. So all right.
Oh, dude, you haven't seen this? It's so rad.
No,
I literally gave that document to API and was like, write me a script to batch upload firmware. And it just like couple prompts and it was done. The crazy thing is I didn't even tell Claude that it was a Bitaxe, and it figured it out.
The craziest thing I did last week was like I never used Gemini, and I was doing that. I was like just like going in there. All right, tell me what's the Bitaxe, and I was feeling I was reading a novel, and everything was correct. That was the best part about it.
Yeah, sometimes it's so chatty. You're just like, oh my God, like, wow, you can learn a lot from just reading what it's doing.
All right, we do have a question. What was the reason behind your decision going to 12 volts for the Bitaxe from the previous 5-volt main power input and 5-volt domain on the board? I think you'd love to answer
Oh,
that. There are plenty of reasons,
yes,
but go
I
for it.
would love to answer that. So, one of the problems when we start having bit axes with higher and higher power is that now, Ohm's law, the current increases. So, the current, uh, as the current gets higher, you run into problems with things like connectors and power supplies and traces on the board and things like that. So with the 5-volt bit axes, and one of the problems we started to see with the gamma is the highest power bit axe, when it came out at the time, as we started to see like increased voltage drop on the barrel connector on the board because the current's getting higher. And so even if you have like sub 1 ohms of contact resistance on the power connector, that's going to cause millivolts of drop, tens of millivolts. And if you started getting into hundreds of millivolts of voltage drop at the connector, now even if your power supply is putting out a good 5 volts, your bit axe won't see that. It'll see less. And if it starts to get significantly below 5 volts, like 4.9, 4.8, now you're going to get a low voltage warning on AXOS because that's starting to fall out of the range of what the BitAx wants. And so with 5 volts, it just gave us a very narrow range, and the increasing power caused increasing current, so more voltage drop in sort of bad connectors, of which the barrel connector is a bad connector. So if you bump it up to 12 volts, now for the same power, you have less current because power just equals current times voltage. So it's less, you could have the same relatively high resistance connector, but less voltage drop because you have less current for the same power. So all that is to say is that we get much more headroom to deal with sort of iffy power supplies and bad connectors and things like that at 12 volts than we do with 5 volts. And we're starting to have multi-chip bit axes, Nerd QX switched to 12 volts a while back for the same reason, I assume. We're starting to have more and more power, and so just switching to 12 volts is it's gonna make things work a lot better, to put it simply. And 12 volt is still a very common power supply voltage, probably more common than 5 volts. So I think it opens up a lot of options there. We're also moving away from the barrel connector because that is, in my opinion, a shitty connector. There's some good ones out there, but the problem is there's lots of bad ones, and they all plug together. You can think like, oh, look, it fits. It's good. It must be good, right? Nope. There's lots of shitty barrel connectors out there, including all of the ones on Amazon. So we're getting away from barrel connectors as well. We're moving to, I think it comes from like the drone industry or something. I don't know. It's called the XT30. It's
RC industry.
What's that?
It's coming from the RC industry.
The RC industry. Okay. Which, that makes sense. The drone industry probably has a lot of parallels with the RC industry. It makes a much better connection. So lower resistance connection. It's like a very tight fit, which lowers the resistance. And I mean, this is going to kind of suck for some people, but they're not as readily available, which kind of sucks. Because you think like, oh, that means I can't just, have 100 options on Amazon. But the problem is with 100 options on Amazon, like 98 of them are crap. So hopefully this will, at least for now, I mean, things may change, but at least for now, this will kind of drive people towards higher quality power supplies that I think are going to make their bit axes work better. Yeah. So Chris Stepps from Power Mining is saying that the Nerd Axe uses the barrel plug, a very similar size barrel plug. There's two different ones that are sort of like kind of compatible. I think it's the 2.1 millimeter and the 2.5 millimeter center pin, and it's like a little iffy if they're cross compatible or not. It kind of depends on where you get it from and what their tolerances are. But yeah, if you plug a 12 volt 12 volt barrel plug into a Bitaxe, it's gonna fry it. That sucks. You know, part of me wishes that Nerd Axe hadn't gone with a 12 volt barrel plug of the same size. But the fact of the matter is that, you know, it's a free world. Like, people are gonna make 12 volt Bitaxes, or 12 volt power supplies with the barrel. They're gonna make 24, 36. They're gonna make AC power supplies with the same barrel connector on it. Like, you can't really control what's out there. Fun story. This is gonna date me, but when I was a little kid, my grandpa gave me a ham radio, and I was like really excited to use it, but it only had like a car, like cigarette lighter style power thing, right? I was a kid, I didn't have a car, but I really wanted to use this ham radio, and so it had a little barrel plug on it, just like a random barrel plug on the back. And I was like, well, we've got a drawer full of little like wall power supplies with that barrel connector on there. Like, I can use this ham radio at home. This is going to be so amazing. And so I just found one in the drawer. Like, as a kid, I didn't really think to like look at it and see what the voltage was. I got a power supply. It totally fit. I plugged it into the back of the ham radio. I plugged it to the wall. The thing just like lit up super bright and then went off and never worked again. It was just fried.
Ooh.
So I guess that is to say, look at what it says on your power supply before you plug it in. Kind of a fact of life. Yeah, that's a long version of why we're switching to 12 volts and a different non-barrel power connector. Another question. I will be manufacturing some gammas in the next month or two. I'd like to donate like 5 pieces to the project. How do I do that?
What do you mean, like by 5 pieces? Like, you'd like to donate units for others to develop on them, or
I think
5
that's
Bitaxes?
yeah, 5 Bitaxes. Well, if you're gonna set up are you gonna set up a store where you're selling Bitaxes, or are you just manufacturing them? I'll say that the way that some of the other sellers have done this in the past, which has been very great for the community, is they have a storefront where they sell them, and they have given the OSMU admins some codes, like for free Bitaxes. And that's, in my mind, the ideal way to do it. Is so now that we have these codes and we can say, oh, here's a developer that needs a Bitaxe real bad. Use this code at this website and order yourself a free Bitaxe. That way we don't have to handle shipping. We don't have to ask people for their addresses. So I don't know where in the world you're based, but that would be a fantastic thing to do, is to get us some codes for your storefront, and then we can give them out. You know, and if you generate 5 codes because you want to give away 5 Bitaxes, then that would be a perfect thing to do. You can contact me or WantClue or any of the other OSMU admins and do that. We can also put you as a contributor to the Bitaxe project on the website, which would be awesome. And then, yeah, what developer Algo says too is, you know, we obviously take Bitcoin donations. So if you want to do that, that also works. But yeah, I mean, we definitely appreciate your support, and we can figure it out. Message one of us, and we can see what works. I'll say we do have a need for sellers that want to donate Bitaxes who are not in the U.S. Who can do international shipping without a ton of tariffs or hassles. So if you're outside of the U.S., I mean, even if you're inside the U.S., we can do it too. But if you're outside the U.S., that would be fantastic.
All right, with that
Texas.
perfect
Okay.
ending
Cool.
here, I think we can wrap it up. It was a nice
Okay.
chat, and obviously, after Town Hall, usually we just find ourselves in the general voice channel and chill in there without any recordings, obviously. So if you want to join us in the general channel afterwards, feel free to do so. With that, it was awesome being here again. Scott, it is your pleasure to do what you always do.
All right. Let's go. Solo Satoshi, Matt, first person on my list. Dude is a legend. Check out Solo Satoshi, also in Texas, if you want to buy some Bitaxes. Lots of cool stuff coming from them. Sean at IX Tech, what's up, dude? I just got one of your El Mirage heat sinks. It's super cool, literally. Thanks for putting that together. It looks cool. Excited to check it out. I should also mention that Solo Satoshi has also a cool custom heatsink for Bitaxe Gamma called the Dark Horse. So 2 different options for you guys to check out there. I've checked them both out, and they are both cool, like in both forms of cool. We have Hunter from Solo Satoshi as well. What's up, dude? Good to see you. I'm a little worried about you guys and your like no sleep for like this whole month. It's important to get sleep, so try and do it a little bit. That's like when your brain like regrows itself. Anyways, those guys are grinding hard, so appreciate what you're all doing. Madness Raven, dude, what's up? I hope you like 12 volts. Ben, what's up? Good to see you. I'm just picturing Ben like sort of casually listening to this, working extremely hard, manufacturing a shit ton of Bitaxes and designing crazy stuff and making sure public pool works. That guy's a legend. So if you're listening, what's up? Good to see you. Mustafa, my man, how are you doing? I'm glad to see you back. I think it's been a while since I've seen you, but I hope your operation is going well. Bitaxes are working out for you. Good to see you. Scramblix, dude, I'm pretty excited about this interface that you're making. I hope that you get it well integrated with the Bitaxe and join the community here. And yeah, let us know what you think. Bitcoin Kendall, what is up? Good to see you. Oh my gosh, how are you doing? I hope that I'm going to run into you at one of these events soon. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing all kinds of Bitcoin Kendall stuff. Developer Algo, what is up? Good to see you. I just saw your comment from earlier. Saw from user, wanted to understand what the user is doing when that happened. Oh, maybe you're talking about the flat line of death thing. Yes, keep riding the Bitcoin beast. It has been a beast lately. Holy cow. We're going to like go to the moon here pretty soon. Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you're making Bitaxes, sticking with us and hacking the planet. Trashman Dan, keep looking for cool stuff in the trashes. You'll know we've made it when you start finding Bitaxes in the trash, right? Like we've got so many of them out there that people are like, "Oh, I gotta just get rid of some of these. I gotta throw them out." So that'd be pretty funny. Chris Stapps, what's up? Good to see you. I'm actually going to see you personally here pretty soon. I should message you, let you know the details. But keep up the good work over there, manufacturing Bitaxes and mining containers and all the other crazy stuff that you guys do. Good to see you. Hexfox, dude, you added the like actual pronunciation of your name to your handle there. That is huge for me because I had trouble with it before. But thank you for all your contributions on ESP Miner and AxeOS. Been killing it. Oh my gosh, we have Sir Vapes in the house. The real one, actually. Let me check. I got to look at the profile here and check and see if this is the real Sir Vapes a lot. Because we have a lot of fake Sir Vapes a lot. I think he might be the most like faked user on OSMU. And there's apparently some way that you can tell if you're talking with the real Survey Apes a lot. I think it has to do with looking at the profile and seeing if if they're an admin on the server that you're on. I don't know. Maybe he'll post again the way you do this. It's a little bit complicated. I wish the Discord made it easier to tell who you're talking to.
I mean, it's pretty easy and straightforward to take a look on it. Just
Is it?
click on
All right.
just
How
click
do you
on the
do it?
profile, and you'll see like these icons of what kind of roles a member has. And
Yeah.
if it is not written in the information, but rather on the bottom of the
so you
profile.
can like interact with it. It's not like a screenshot of the roles. It's the actual icons.
Yeah.
So you can like hover your mouse over it and see if it like is real. Okay, that's a good pro tip, because there's not going to be another Survey Apes a lot that has the actual icon for OSMU founder. Which, by the way, Survey Apes a lot is. Shout out to you, dude, for starting up this crazy thing. Who would have guessed that we would have? What's the count today? How many users do we have up in here?
We do have 9,613
users.
13.
Dang.
5 bots.
Mine's with the bot. Okay, 13. 9,613 members, 5 bots that we know about. 28 people in our weekly town hall number 39. This is huge, man. Good to see you. And cool. That's everyone that I recognize in the list. Shout out to you all. Thanks for joining us here. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Looking forward to chatting with you all again.
All right. Thanks
Survey Apes
everybody
members
for
when we had
tuning
30
in
total
here.
members.
All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in here. It was, as always, awesome being here. And don't forget to keep hashing. See you in 2 weeks.